I am 73 years old, and there's something I have been carrying for a long time. It sits with me in the mornings, before the house wakes up, before I remember what day it is. I chose possessions over time with my daughter, and I didn't understand what that choice would cost until it was already done costing me. I'm not saying this to ask for forgiveness. I don't think that's how life works at this stage. I'm saying it because time is short now, and the truth feels heavier when you don't say it out loud. These days, my life is quiet. Too quiet sometimes. I notice the silence more than anything else. It fills the rooms where voices used to be. It reminds me of how much space I once gave to things that don't speak back. When I look around my house, I see what I worked for. The furniture is solid. The shelves are full. The walls hold things I once wanted badly enough to trade evenings for. Weekends. Years. My daughter doesn't live here. She hasn't for a long time. When she was born, I thought I understood what mattered. I held her in the hospital and felt something settle into place. Responsibility, I called it. Purpose. I told myself I would give her a good life, and I meant that in the way people usually do: safety, comfort, things she wouldn't have to worry about. I didn't question that definition. Not then. I grew up with very little. We reused things until they fell apart. We measured success by what you could afford not to fix anymore. When I became a father, I promised myself my child wouldn't grow up that way. So I worked. I worked in ways that felt responsible and adult. Long hours, overtime, side jobs. I brought home paychecks and tiredness. I brought home proof that I was doing what I was supposed to do. My daughter was small then. She would sit on the floor while I checked mail. She'd show me drawings while I half listened, thinking about the next bill. I remember nodding a lot, saying, "That's nice," without looking long enough. I didn't think I was neglecting her. That word feels too harsh for what it was. I was present in the ways that counted, or so I thought. I paid for school clothes. I fixed things around the house. I showed up when it was important. I didn't realize how often important became something I defined narrowly. There were nights she wanted me to read to her, and I said tomorrow. There were weekends she asked me to stay home, and I said just a few hours. There were conversations she tried to start when I was tired, and I answered in short sentences. None of it felt cruel. It felt practical. As she got older, the request changed. Less asking to play, more asking to talk. I remember her standing in the kitchen one evening while I was sorting paperwork, telling me about a problem at school. I remember thinking I'd respond better once I finished what I was doing. I don't remember what she said. I remember the stack of papers. When she was a teenager, I told myself this distance was normal. Kids pull away. That's what people said. I accepted that explanation easily because it didn't require me to change. I bought her things instead. New shoes. A better phone than she asked for. I told myself this was how I showed love. I didn't know how to show it in quieter ways anymore. There was a moment, years later, when she moved out, and I felt a strange relief mixed with pride. She was independent. She didn't need much from me now. I told myself that meant I had done my job well. It took time for that pride to thin out. As the years passed, our conversations became polite, scheduled, short. We talked about logistics, holidays, weather, safe topics that didn't require closeness. I noticed she stopped calling unless there was a reason. I told myself she was busy. I told myself I had raised her to be self-sufficient. What I didn't tell myself was that we hadn't practiced being close when it mattered. The turning point didn't come with shouting or blame. It came quietly. She missed a holiday one year, then another. She said she had plans. I said I understood. I meant it, but understanding doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. One afternoon, I was cleaning out a closet and found boxes of things I had saved. Old tools, electronics that no longer worked, things I once thought would be useful again. I sat on the floor and opened them one by one. They felt heavier than they should have. That was the first time I thought clearly about what I had traded. Not in a dramatic way, just in a simple, honest one. I had given my best attention to objects that stayed, and I had given what was left to a person who grew. When I finally tried to talk to her about it, I didn't do it well. I didn't have the language. I said I'd always done my best. I said I provided. She listened. She nodded. She didn't argue. That was worse than if she had. She didn't say I was a bad father. She didn't say I had failed. She said she wished she had known me better when she was younger. There are sentences that don't leave you. That was one of them. I wanted to explain myself, to say I didn't know any other way, that I thought I was doing the right thing. But explanations don't rebuild time. They just describe why it's gone. We still speak. I'm grateful for that. But there is a space between us that feels permanent. It's filled with what we never shared, what we never practiced. At 73, you understand permanence differently. You know some things won't shift anymore, not because people are unwilling, but because life has moved too far in one direction. I look at my possessions now and see them for what they are. Useful, yes. Comfortable, sometimes, but quiet. They don't remember me. They don't miss me. I don't hate the life I lived. That would be too simple. I understand why I made the choices I did. They made sense from inside that time. But understanding doesn't erase the outcome. If I could speak to my younger self, I wouldn't tell him to work less. That advice never lands. I would tell him to notice when he's choosing ease over presence. When he's postponing connection because it feels inconvenient. I didn't know how many times you can say later before it becomes never in subtle ways. If you're listening to this, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just sharing what I learned too late to use fully myself. Time with people doesn't accumulate the way money does. You can't save it. You can't make up for it by giving more later. It exists only where you put it. My remaining time is smaller now. I spend it more carefully. I call my daughter even when I don't have a reason. Sometimes the calls are short, sometimes they're awkward, but they're real. I don't know how I'll be remembered. Parents rarely do. We live in the background of our children's lives. I just wish I had stood closer to the center when it mattered. If this meant something to you, I'm glad you stayed. That's all. I'm 73, and I'm learning, finally, that the things I once chased were never meant to keep me company at the end.